do what you love, focus on doing what you love, and then align that with something that helps other people. Be authentic. Everything else will come.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello everybody, it's Neil Ball here. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I'm so excited to bring you our special guest today, Alan Vaysberg. But before I introduce you to him, I have a little quote for you. Bono said, "We thought that we had the answers, but it was the questions we had wrong." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insight, inspiration and ideas to apply in our business. Alan, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
Absolutely, and love Bono's quote. That's very, very good.
Yeah, it is. Alan Vaysberg is a successful entrepreneur who, after creating and running a successful IT consulting business for 15 years, at the age of 37 found himself unhappy, unhealthy and unfulfilled. He knew he had to make changes, and in 2012 he decided to begin anew. Now he is a life recalibration expert and creator of the Seamless Method, who facilitates people's transition from unfulfilled and stressed to doing what they love and being at peace. He speaks on life purpose, career change, work-life balance and the recalibration process, and runs online programs helping people recalibrate their lives. While he works with people from all walks of life, his primary focus is on working professionals whose busy lives seem to be getting the better of them. Alan, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and your personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Absolutely. I'm an open book. In terms, again, of the background, I did run IT companies. I went into IT because I thought that's where the money was. Mm-hmm. And money I found, although the first iteration of my company did not succeed and I was almost bankrupt, about $350,000 in personal debt. Climbed out of that, started another company, made that a successful company with, I think, close to maybe $2.5 million in revenue per year. Not profit, but revenue. So did quite well. And at the height of my successes in 2012 said, that's it. I can't do this anymore because it's not who I am. Mm-hmm. You know, I did this. I got out of debt. I made some money. It's time to go on with my life and do things that I actually want to do.
Mm-hmm. So when you say you decided it wasn't who you were, what made you feel that? What was it?
Because when I was growing up, it was I certainly was not dreaming about being an IT professional. Mm-hmm. And I'm joking, because it's from my perspective. I know lots of people who were dreaming about that.
Yeah.
I just wasn't one of them. I dreamt about being a professional tennis player, mm-hmm. an actor, somebody who gets up on stage and inspires people, a writer. Yeah, I've been writing poetry since I was 7 years old. So these are things I dreamt about. Which everybody said that it's just a hobby, it's not a real job, get a real job, which I did, and it didn't help. And I got stuck in it for way too long. So for the past 2 years leading up to 2012, I had this voice in my head that was saying, live your essence. Mm-hmm. And I knew what it meant, and I wasn't living it. And I got to the point where introducing myself to other people, when you have to shake somebody's hand and they ask you, what do you do? And you have to say it. Anytime I would utter the words, I'm an IT consultant. I'm getting that feeling now, by the way. Anytime I would say I'm an IT consultant, there's something in the pit of my stomach that would just yell out, no, that's not who you are. You're an actor, you're a teacher, you're an author, and you're not doing any of those things. So at a midway point in 2012, I basically stopped introducing myself as that. And I started introducing myself as an actor or an author. which made for lots of fun follow-ups because people got excited about it and they asked what I've been in or what I've written, and the answer was nothing. But I'm an actor, I'm an author. But it was my way of starting to get into alignment with who I really was. And after that, I did write a book. I was in a movie, and I did these things that I talked about. But it was a process of acknowledgement that what I did, I was very proud of. I built something from nothing and made it successful, but it was not my life purpose, and I needed to pursue that.
That's a very brave move, actually. I think a lot of people would probably have continued on with that and just put up with the fact that they were probably not that happy doing what they were doing. So to actually just let go of it. So what did you do? Did you sell the business or?
I tried to, but in a consulting IT space, basically, it's not worth much unless you are in it because you are the primary driver of it. We have no assets. The contracts with certain companies were there, and the money that we were offered for the firm was not large enough. And anytime you buy a company of that size, you have to go and work for another company for 2 to 3 years, and then you get some money up front plus salary. It just wasn't worth it. So basically, we sunset the business and went our separate ways.
And what do you enjoy most about what you do now, Alan?
Right now, it's a completely different dynamic. I don't, even though I am working, I don't consider it work. And I know that people always say this, find something that you're doing that you don't think of it in terms of work. So in a way, I am retired from my previous life. I work part-time in it. I still do a little bit of IT to continue funding my new endeavors until they fully take over and I don't have to. But I enjoy that process a lot more. And I am there creating programs. I'm there understanding what I can do in order to facilitate people becoming healthier and happier and much more aligned with who they are. And that process, the process of me actually being out here, like on the radio show, I'm speaking to you and I'm helping to inspire hopefully at least just one person that's going to make that change and make a big difference in their and everybody else's life around them. And that alone makes it all worth it, as opposed to writing reports and making money and being very successful in something that I didn't care much about.
I think the interesting thing about what you've said, it could apply to anybody ultimately. It could apply to somebody who's already got a business or someone who's got a job and they are unhappy in what they're doing. And what you're really saying is you need to just take a stand and change it and go and pursue what you want to do. I think obviously that's what you've done. So just one other thing. Have you used your IT skills in what you're doing now then? Absolutely. And that's actually a very important point that came through because when I was quitting everything and I left, I didn't want to have anything to do with IT forever. As everybody that goes through that, they want to just cut things off and say goodbye, which is not the smartest thing to do anyway. But what I've come to understand afterwards is that all of our experiences, every journey that we have been on, are things that are setting us up for the future. So even though I've changed completely into doing something very different, IT still, aside from funding my new endeavors, IT still is very important because setting up websites and dealing with the structures and doing online marketing, my IT skills have been imperative. The ways that I've learned to manage projects and to manage people. Right now, I don't have any employees, but I have people that are working for me all around the world when I need them. So ability to manage those people and doing offshoring and all of that knowledge in terms of creating software and managing projects is extremely important to what it is that I'm doing right now. So I was already set up with it. And that's the awareness that whatever you're doing right now, even if it's not who you think you are, it is a part of you that you will be utilizing in the future. Yeah, you made me think of Steve Jobs there then when I thought about I think when he was at university before he dropped out, he used to attend courses which he just found interesting. And I think one of the courses he attended was to do with sort of typesetting and sort of fonts and things like that. And later on, that was something he applied in the Macs and became very much the strength of the Macs for typesetters and graphic designers and things. So it's interesting that you say that. So, Alan, what is it that drives you?
There's a part of it that's fear, the fear of not realizing my potential. That's definitely one of the drivers. Another driver is the obligation, because my parents brought me here from the former Soviet Union at the age of 14, and they've made lots of sacrifices and personal sacrifices on their own just so I can have a better chance in life. And if I squander that chance, then I will be very disappointed. So there's that part that drives me. The faith of lots of people who have, are looking at me and seeing if I can actually accomplish what I've set out to do. That is a driver. And then just from the personal perspective, putting all of that aside, I'm doing what I love, which is helping other people. And that interest in helping others, in getting their lives into the next stage, is what drives and inspires me.
So when you talk about helping other people, your help is it one-on-one consulting, or do you sell courses? How do you actually give that help?
Yeah, it's actually a combination of all of those things, plus more, because I find that people are at different parts of their life. There are different types of people who respond better to certain things. So from my perspective, it's my responsibility to offer all options and then have people decide what's right for them at that particular time. So there is one-on-one coaching that's available that I do with people. And we talked about career change. We talked about health and wellness. We talked about spiritual coaching. So all of those things are parts of what I do. That's a part of the recalibration process, which we can go into if you like. There is online courses. So if people want to go that route, there are two different flavors of them. One is a self-guided version where a course is set up and people can take it anytime they want. And there's a fully mentored group concept where I take a group of people through the 10-week seamless course. There is the speaking, there is the writing. I do a lot of writing. There are books that are coming out based on these methods. So it's really a combination of all factors in order to help people wherever they are.
You mentioned the recalibration process. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's that's kind of my baby, what I've done for myself and what I continuously do for myself, and that is what I help others with, and it has a number of components. The first component is understanding who you are. So it's finding your essence or life purpose, as other people call it. And it's once we discover that, then there are other things that come out of it. We need to get your life in order in terms of getting you healthier, in terms of getting reprogramming of external stimuli and a lot of things that have led you to where you are right now. We remove that negativity, we reprogram, we get you back to a state that's peaceful, balanced, and ready to build on from there. Then a lot of people go through a career change or a career adjustment in order to realign who they are with what they choose to do for a living. And then the last part of that is finding balance, because once people get on a track of actually doing something that they love, they get out of balance again because they're doing way too much of it and they forget everything else. So it's getting back into that alignment. So the whole process has 3 steps. Finding yourself, getting balance, changing your career, and then finding balance again.
Okay, thank you for that. And how do you relax when you're not working in your business? I mean, you sound like you're quite busy with all the things you've got going on at once here.
Yeah, for me, my relaxation is I can't say that I'm stressed anyway, because being busy, we associate that with stress, and I don't find myself stressed very often at all. My stress mostly comes from my children who are young and they're yelling at each other, and I'm learning how to deal with it. And from that perspective, if I need to relax, I listen to some very soothing music, and I meditate, or I just go outside and I'm with myself in the silence of nature. That's how I get back into a balanced mode. But other than that, I really don't get stressed, and that's been a huge difference between my previous life, if you will, and this current version, which that was constant stress, and here is very little of it.
And do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
It's an interesting question because I can think of many different people, but I don't consider anybody a role model. I stopped doing that a long time ago because we get into a state where we put them on a pedestal. And I've learned that people have their strengths and their weaknesses. And when you expect somebody to be a certain way and then they're not, you start to lose respect for other things that they actually are great at. So I don't look at anybody as a role model, but I respect many of the people around me. One person, to give you a specific example, is Marie Forleo, who started B School, and she's what I love about her is that, like myself, she's multifaceted. There's not one thing that she's doing. So she took the notion of you have to be doing one thing, otherwise you're not successful, and she threw it out the window. Yeah. And she's doing all the things that she wants to do, and that right now is 10 million a year or more business.
Yeah, I think the thing with the role models is different people seem to come up with different answers, and I've had, in fact, I think the last person I interviewed said that they didn't have anybody either, and yet other people will have one. And I think the true thing with this is to have several, isn't it, really, if you're going to, and obviously take the inspiration that you need from those person without hanging on to their every word. I think that's probably the key to it. So, but
then not judging them too harshly, because we're all human, and we have things that we excel at, and then we have many things that we need to get better at as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan, can we now talk about the time before you were an entrepreneur? What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
Well, I was an entrepreneur almost immediately, because that's more of my nature. Once I decided that I was not going to be a professional tennis player or an actor, the entrepreneur gene kicked in.
Okay.
And I did, my first job was 6 months working for somebody else full time doing IT. And that was as much as I could stand it. I immediately left, and I tried to start my own business, which actually took a little bit longer, because I worked for a software company for a year, being a consultant for them, and then started my business after it. So the difficulties before starting a business is you kind of have to have one of four things at least before you start the business. And what I realized is that the first business that went bye-bye was a business in which I had none of those four. Those four, by the way, are connections in the industry, experience in the industry, money, or a good economy. And when I was starting my first business, I had none of those. So it failed spectacularly, because September 11th happened, and none of the contracts got signed. I kept everybody on, and ended up in a lot of personal debt. So the difficulties before, again, starting the business was I really had no knowledge of what to do or how to go about it. It was all instinct, and some were correct, and that's why I grew very quickly from nothing into $750,000 revenue a year business. But I made plenty of mistakes where September 11th finally did me in. Where if it didn't happen, I probably would have done very well with that particular business and grew it and continued on. So the difficulties were, again, I had no foundation, and I had nobody to assist me. There was one mentor that I had that was a part of the business, but we had a falling out because he wanted to hire somebody that I didn't think was right for the business, and that was the end of that relationship.
And you mentioned mentors there. Do you still have mentors?
I have people who I rely upon to be a bouncing wall.
Yeah.
I have there's a life coach that I used to work with when I made my transition in 2012. So he was instrumental in me making that switch, in my wife understanding what I was going through. I can't thank him enough for what he did. We're not working together anymore, but at that time he was instrumental.
Did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
No. I am the type of personality, and I think many entrepreneurs are that way. We have no doubts. We are the type of people that have a fascinating gene where, I remember at work I was paying $50,000 a month in salaries, and my brain was completely fine with that. And on the other end, we were seeing, is $1,000 for a vacation too much? And we separate those two, which is a curse and a blessing. So for me, I had no doubts about going into business. It was that's what I choose to do. I cannot necessarily work for anybody else because I have many talents, and the only way for me to utilize them is to have my own business and to do the things that I choose to do and to have the ability to make my own decisions. And if they're right, great. If they're wrong, I'll deal with the consequences, learn and move on. So there was no doubt or no worries about starting the business. Other people in my life had those, but not me.
I think I'll have to check out this entrepreneur gene you've talked about and find out. I didn't realise they'd identified that yet. And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
Again, it's just not knowing and being overly positive. You can be very positive and you can be realistic. And when we're talking about genes, positivity is a gene of mine, and realism has not been. Which again allows me to be this person who starts things, who doesn't worry about who anybody is. I can contact anyone and speak to them normally without worrying about their position or status because I don't care. Mm-hmm. We're all people to me. That is a blessing. But looking at everything from a perspective of rosiness and everything is going to work out, sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And if I was a little bit more realistic, then I would not have hired when I hired. I would not have kept everybody on when I did, and it would have been a lot better. But a revisionist history doesn't worry me, so it's just a process of learning from it and moving on.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you did before you started your business that would be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken their first step on the entrepreneur way?
That's a very good question. Well, again, have no fear is definitely one of the things. And then what I guess didn't do, but I would advise, is before you start a business, make sure that you're either an expert in whatever it is that you're offering, product, services, whatever, or the people who work for you are, because those things are very, very important. Business is all about differentiation and uniqueness and a product offering or a service offering that matters. And the only way to do that properly is for you to actually be an expert in it and love what you do. Mm-hmm. If you're starting a business because it's just a business, your heart will never be in it, and you're never going to be as successful as you could have been. Mm-hmm. I was successful, but because I really didn't love what I was doing, I wasn't putting all of the efforts into it. So that $2.5 million a year business could have been $10 million a year if I actually put my mind to it fully, which I didn't do because it was not something that I really wanted to invest my time in. Mm-hmm. It was that thing that kept on driving, and it was working, and it made money, so I didn't want to quit it, but it was not my heart. So I think the biggest advice that I would give to people is align your business with your passion and become an expert in it before you actually start it. Mm.
Interesting point you said there about love what you do. I mean, some people say that if you create a business in something that you love, by the time you've done it for 20 years, your love of it's probably not going to be quite the same. So when you talk about love what you do you mean, being an entrepreneur is obviously doing something, but what you actually sell in terms of the service that you provide, whether it's a product or a service or a solution or whatever it is you do, if you love what you're selling or providing, are you talking about loving the process or loving the end product, so to speak? What do you mean by that?
Well, so let's look globally. If I'm selling a weight loss product, and I'm selling it because I'm an entrepreneur. I know I can make money at it. I'm doing proper marketing. It'll be fairly successful, but it's not going to be fully successful because people sense that. Yeah. People sense whether you really care about this or not, and you cannot fake it.
No.
Whether you have the experience of losing weight yourself, or you have helped enough people where you really care about doing that, people see whether you're genuine or not. So loving what you're doing to me is imperative, because if you are really into losing weight, using that specific example, you had your own experiences in it, and you really care about helping others, your marketing can suck, and you'll still be great because people will see right through it, and they'll see just how much you care, and it will come across, and they'll work with you because of it. So loving what you're doing. And you brought up an excellent point of, 20 years down the road, are you going to have the same passion for it? It all depends, right? It depends because we tend to get in a grind. And if you allow your passion to become your grind, then you're not going to be there long term. But understanding that we are well-rounded human beings and there we have many passions, and taking one of those and making it into a business, while allowing yourself to have other things that are adding to it, will keep you fresh long term.
Okay. What I'd like to do now, Alan, is talk about the entrepreneurial journey itself and just talk about a few things around that. Do you think that culture is important from the beginning in a business?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely is, because the business is a reflection of the founder. So the culture is very important to instill in your employees, especially, and again, another advice for the entrepreneurs is delegate immediately, because you will want to be doing everything yourself, and then you cannot get yourself out of the process, and then you won't be able to grow. So once you have employees, you need to instill that culture of what you represent, hire the right people for it, and make sure that that culture continues on. Otherwise, you will be known as just somebody, instead of, everybody from this business, we know exactly who they are and what they stand for. So that is a very important stamp that you need to put on immediately.
Yeah, some great advice there. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started out would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And again, knowing what I know now, I never would have started the IT business in the first place.
I thought you were going to say that.
Yes, I would not.
But in terms of what I'm thinking more of is in terms of knowledge and things like that, or experience.
Yeah, and just doing what I love, knowing what I know now, I would have gotten a PhD in psychology or psychiatry, and would have been helping people right away. Not necessarily by doing one-on-one sessions, but by writing the books, going out there, speaking, and doing things that I do now. But right now, I simply have no interest in spending the next 8 years and getting that PhD. No. Even a master's program is going to be 2.5 to 3 years full time with me not doing anything but that, which is impossible at this point. So, I would have completely changed my direction, but not worried about it.
Okay. And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
A lot. Yeah, I am very cerebral in terms of how I process information. Everything has to feel right. If it doesn't, then I don't do it. Now, I've learned to take that and make it deeper by utilizing numbers along with it. And it has to feel right, and it has to align in terms of actual figures. But gut feel to me is the first and foremost important part of whether I do something or not. And as I've learned over the years, I've had some wrong decisions, obviously, that I've made. But some things that I have done simply based on gut feel, which went against what other people would have advised in a particular situation, paid off incredible dividends just because I was true to who I thought I was at that time.
Alan, life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. And some would say that the only constant is change. So how do you try to keep up with change?
I don't try to keep up with anything because change is life. So for me, it's all about alignment and being in the flow of it.
Yeah.
I don't worry about change. Some people have a hard time with change and anything new. For me, it's what keeps it fresh, what keeps it interesting, and what keeps me learning and engaged. I am the person who gets bored very easily doing the same task over and over again. So for me, change is the lifeblood. That's why it's really not an issue, but rather something that I find interesting as long as I'm in alignment with it.
Okay. And what is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
There's one series of books that I believe have been translated in other languages as well, but it's originally in Russian. It's books about a spiritual person whose name is Anastasia, and her way that she interprets the world and how people should live in it. Those books blew me out of the water, and those books taught me probably more than any other books. The other series of books were probably Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, which again have been translated into multiple languages. So it's not necessarily books on business.
Yeah.
It is books on life and books on expanding your horizons and understanding who you are. Because business to me is an extension of who you are. You can't get away from it. Again, I tried creating a business just because it was something that would earn me money, and it never brought me as much success as I anticipated, and it certainly didn't bring me happiness either. So to me, anything you do should be a representation of who you are inside, and those are the books that I read.
Okay, thanks for that. Everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time that you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you are at a gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you haven't already signed up, then you will qualify. Alan, we'd now like to sort of fast forward into the future and just talk about a few things there. So what one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
Interesting question. I'm trying to think of what it is that I am doing now that has a different mindset, but I don't. Because everything that I'm doing, I'm not worried about failure. I'm doing it now because I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't have that mindset of it will be successful or will not be. I did. But I've gotten out of that a year or 2 years ago, because what you start doing is you start trying to mimic others who are successful. And you start going through the same motions as other people are teaching you. In order to do this, in order to convert this person, you need to go through this process, you need to do that. And all of it is nonsense. It's nonsense because that's not who you are. You need to find yours. You need to find yours. You need to find your authenticity. And you need to do it because you actually care about helping somebody. And once you do that, everything else comes naturally. So I've gotten out of that mode of doing things because they will be successful and not doing it because I didn't think they would be, and just getting to the point where most senior citizens are. They just don't give a damn. They're going to be themselves, and if anybody doesn't like it, it's up to them.
And what skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
I'm very good at marketing and advertising, but I certainly could be better. There are so many different niches and so many different things that people who spend all of their time on are amazing at. So if I were amazing at this, it certainly would allow me to spend less money on working with them, and I can just do it myself. But now I rely upon their expertise and the tools that they provide. So probably would be the social media marketing advertising component.
Okay. In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
I would like it to say, I don't care in terms of the focus on the money or how much money it's making, but what I would like it to say is that after working with Alan, after learning the techniques that he has discussed, we've completely changed our lives. And we are much better for it. And whatever we paid for them at that time, we would have paid 10 times that much because we see the value of it.
That sounds good. Right, we're now at the part of the show where you share your 3 golden nuggets. So, Alan, what is your favourite quote, and how have you applied it?
It may sound egotistic, but my favorite quote is "Live your essence." It is my quote, but on the other hand, it is a quote that came to me from the universe. So I would say it's their quote that I have taken on. And to me, live your essence is aligned with who you are, is be true to your purpose and live it. And for that is the one that drives me every day.
Okay, that's a good quote, though. Do you have any favourite online resources that you could share that would be useful to us all?
Yeah, again, I'm a poet. I love memes. Part of what I do is inspiring others or passing wisdom. So I create memes almost on a daily basis. And what I do is I use 2 things. These are online resources. I use Deposit Photos to get the proper image. And then I go to PicMonkey in order to make it into what I want it to be and add text and align things properly. So those 2 resources I use on a constant basis.
Okay. And what is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
I've given already, but let's echo it once again. Do what you love. Focus on doing what you love, and then align that with something that helps other people. Be authentic. Everything else will come.
Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Alan's favourite resource or his favourite book, you can find the links on Alan's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Alan or Alan Vaysberg in the search box. Alan, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
My business, after many years and after different iterations and after learning about myself, my business, again, is about helping others in their journey through doing it myself, through recalibrating my life. I'm helping others do the same for them because I've seen what it did for me and people around me. And I want that and more for everybody else.
It's been an absolute honour having you on the show, Alan. You've certainly given us a different perspective on sort of the entrepreneur's journey, and you've given us some good insight into what drives you and being an entrepreneur. And you've certainly given us some inspiration as well. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.